Right, so sorry for the ugly sweater, but I have an ugly hat. Is that all right? Am I included? Great. All right, so my name is Clément, and I'm from Lenham. I'm a co-founder there. I'm really glad to be here. It's been a long time since I've done a talk in English, so please be kind. I'm really happy and proud to show what we built at Lenham, and especially to show how useful Algolia was for us. The broad guidelines of the talk are microservices. A few years ago, it was kind of new. I guess here, maybe with a show of hands, who knows about microservices? Okay, and now harder question, who believes in microservices? Aha! Yeah, okay. Okay. Before this venture with Lenham, I was working at La Ruche Kidiwi, it's a marketplace that allows local farmers to sell directly to consumers. And we kind of had a few stories about, the monolith talking about, we should do microservices, yeah, but it's a lot of overhead and et cetera, et cetera. I could tell a few stories. If you want, during the talk, please stop me and ask for details. If I say bullshit, please say it too. So, you just shout, Clément, you stop me, and we can talk. Actually, my talk is shorter than 15 or 20 minutes, so we have time for that. What I want to, or the way I want to follow is first, we're going to talk about the architectural concept of microservices versus a big monolith. Then we're going to go in the code and a demo of what we did. We're going to spend more time here. And at the end, maybe that's the most interesting, we're going to talk about the strategy behind microservices and especially what it means for the teams themselves. And actually, I'm not really a developer, or actually I was, and 3 years ago, I made a very bad decision. I became a manager, which is the worst job in the world, especially because contrary to microservices who actually push you to do one thing well, managers tend to do a lot of things really badly. So that was my world when I learned IT 10 years ago. It was Java, I think, the technology, and you had consumer users that you try to make happy. You had a big box with everything in it, and every time there was a new feature, you actually added to this big box, and you had a database somewhere, and that's what we call the big monolith of death, because first, it's very messy. No matter how much design effort you put into it, it always gets messy. Are people here who actually manage to have a beautiful monolith in their company? Okay, great. And I think that the most important downside of the monolith is we were always afraid to deploy. Like, I used to shit in my pants. And then run like for 12 hours to fix everything that went bad, because you could actually not roll back because it was even more dangerous than doing the first deploy at start. I guess you guys, maybe you don't all know that, but you have, still nowadays, you have banks that roll out services. They shut down the services for 7 days to actually roll out a new update. And guys are working nonstop just to make things work. And to actually fix that, we invented microservices. This is a really crude view of my architecture. It's definitely not the high level you can find at Netflix, for example, or at Spotify. This is an advice from me. Read the fault tolerance article from Netflix. It's a great article about microservices at scale. And the first thing we see is actually this is not less messy. And we tend to believe as developers that microservices are less messy because when you look at one, it's easier to handle, it's quickly developed or quickly integrated when you are, for example, integrating Algolia. But actually, the DevOps work that you need to pull to actually integrate all that is very complex. But we are not shitting our pants, because if something fails, not everything fails. And to my mind, I believe that's the biggest advantage of microservices. You can sleep at night. Now that this big concept I went through that, I guess you already know that, but it's always good to hear someone repeat what we already believe. Everybody agrees with me, I guess. Yes? No? Yeah? Oh, that's a little yes. Who disagrees? No one has the balls to disagree. Okay, I take that as a yes. So now I'm going to just talk about disintegration here. So to my mind, that's the great thing about Algolia. You spend maybe, I don't know, like half a day pushing the data to Algolia, and you can spend 6 months actually build a great front UX. And I don't consider myself very good on this side. So I'm going to talk about this one, which is kind of a way to say, OK, start with that, and you're happy, and then play with that afterwards. The code is actually really easy. What we are using is MongoDB as a database. It's an Express application. And we use the Mongoose ODM. The code is actually not even written by me. You just use the Mongoose-Algolia plugin. The developer and the team, or actually the developer, is very, very fast to answer pull requests. He doesn't accept them very often, but writes better afterwards, very fast too. This is exactly the lines you need to have your whole app synchronized with Algolia, which is pretty cool, because after doing the authentication, you just select what fields you want to push, or actually these are the ones I don't want to push. And you select the fields you want to populate. Sometimes in your database, you don't have exactly the same schema that you want to push to Algolia. And Mongoose-Algolia allows you to actually push exactly what you want. And once you've done that, every time someone edits or updates or creates a new object on your app, Algolia will get the data, and you will be able to use the search engine in the front. This is pretty basic to my mind. Does someone need more explanation on this side? Yeah. No one has the balls to say, oh, OK, it's OK. This, yes. Yes.
Are you able to build 2 Algolia objects from one MongoDB document?
Not with Mongoose-Algolia. But I'm pretty sure the complexity of actually like changing the plugin itself won't be too hard. Because it's just, actually, you could. Because what I do is I plug in one Mongoose-Algolia here. And I could actually exactly plug in the same another time. Maybe someone in the audience actually can tell us for sure. But this is just a post filter after I write in the database. So I can just add as many as I want. It's a great point. Thank you. Any other question? OK, cool. So this is what I built. This is Lenum, an obvious tool. And it's perhaps a use case that Algolia developers didn't think about too much. This is not e-commerce. It's about people inside a company. And the point is discovering and connecting with the people you work with obviously an ultra-fast search engine that everyone that doesn't know about Algolia thinks I built myself, and they believe that I'm very, very clever and a great coder, whereas I actually only copy and paste a few lines of code in the bottom of my model. Thanks, Algolia, for that. The point of having a great search engine only makes sense if you actually have great profiles. And that's something that is really important for us. Instead of having the HR guy or some random role that was written on a business card, this is a tool that allows any employees of a company to present and introduce themselves the way they want. And in that, they can use themes and little hashtags to describe interests, skills, or other kind of groups. And this is really powerful because it allows people, especially in big groups. I don't think, for example, Algolia has this kind of problem, but it allows people in big groups to actually kind of break down the rules that we all know, and perhaps it's a good time to go to the next way of organizations now. And then, yeah, Algolia is very fast. Lenum 2, you find the person and you connect directly. No matter the medium, you just click phone or Instagram and you left Lenum. It took 10 seconds and you are just connected with the one you need in your company. And at the end, it's integrated with Google+, Slack, and it pulls data. It will pull them from LinkedIn, etc., etc. And that's why it was important to integrate Algolia really at the bottom, just above the database, because there are many logics and many other microservices that will push data to my database, and I just want Algolia to be synchronized with that. All right, so that's OK with the little intro, maybe a little demo. So for example, let's say I'm looking for a Node JS developer. OK, I have 75 of them in my organization, and I'm probably going to go in Strasbourg sometime. And I made, obviously, a mistake, but Algolia fixed it because Algolia is very clever. So here we have, for example, Lee Pace, and he lives in Strasbourg, France. We see that maybe it deserves the biggest highlight here. And I am actually going to go there, but I don't know where to live. And I know that in my company, some people are actually sharing extra beds. And that's a great thing. Like, I just found out that Jack Johnson, that has the skill I want to learn or I want to share, lives in Strasbourg and has a bed to share for me. And I can just call him and actually spend the weekend or the week and maybe even sleep with him. I don't know. Like it does actually look very good. Anyway, what I'm very happy to have been able to build with Algolia really fast is the organizational tree. So you know that in Algolia you can create hierarchies within the categories, and you can use the same with the hierarchy in your organization. So for example, all the people in HQ, I have 140. All the people in R&D and all the people in bike shedding are displayed like that. There are a few discussions to have about, why show the teams at the same conceptual level as the people. This is actually perhaps a bad idea. But it also allows to look for teams and also connect with the teams directly. For example, all the people that do sales, they probably have somewhere a website, an internal website that explains what they do, and you want to have that indexed and be able to search that in your company too. All right, how am I with the time? OK. So is it because it's very interesting or very disinteresting?
Yes, I didn't watch the time, so
OK.
I think you did good. If you're over, we can go to the questions.
Actually, if I have a few minutes,
you have
I would like
to
go on to actually what really matters to me. I'm sure the tech was not really impressive. You all integrated Algolia, or you want to do it, and that's great. I really advise for it. I advise to go towards microservices. So for me, Algolia is a microservice. I believe the people working at Algolia, not so much. It's kind of huge, but when you go back to the basics, microservices are small, autonomous services that work together. And I really want to emphasize the together, and that's where Algolia is great. This is the together of the microservice Algolia. The SDKs, the documentation are the together of Algolia. And we, as developers, we love doing small stuff that work, and we love being autonomous. Nobody telling us what to do, that's great, OK? But we often forget that. And what I found out is when the developers forget that, you have people like me that become managers that do the work of together instead of the developers themselves. This is Conways Law, which is one of the hardest sentences to understand, especially when it's late. I leave you the time to read it. What it says is, if you are badly organized within yourselves, you will do a bad design for your product, and your product, therefore, will be bad at some point. On the contrary, if you want to work well, if you want to do great things, you need to be autonomous and be able to decide and take your own decision, because the guy that does the work, that takes the shit, is the one that deserves to take the decision. But for that, these guys need to be integrated too. And most of the time, when some managers or some guys say, we should absolutely do that with this techno, etc., we all say, this manager is an asshole. He doesn't understand a thing he's talking about. But actually, that's your fault. If you are not able to interact correctly with all the other people in your company, if you're not able to provide documentation, SDKs, timelines, etc., you are failing at doing a great microservice. And that's actually something I believe deeply. I believe we don't need manager. I believe all of us are able to do one thing very well, many things very well, and especially integration. And that's actually why we built Lenum, to help us better integrate with each other and tell each other what we are great at. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Clément. I think you're perfectly in the timing.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any question about Lenum or how it was integrated? Yes, so someone over there. Wait, I'm going to give you a mic so it's recorded.
Of course.
This is actually a mic.
And you're going to catch it.
Ready?
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think for your product, Algolia do a better job than the other one, like Apache Solar or Elasticsearch?
The first time I built it, it took me 1 day. So I had no backend. I just had an organization that sent me an Excel with all the people, and it took me 1 day to actually show them the search engine. And because, for example, there is a front end for Algolia that you can use, and that was enough to convince me. I had a working prototype under 1 day. And then I discovered the SDK, I discovered instant search. I saw that many things were possible with that. And also, I think I like the dynamism of the company. I have many UX issues. Searching for people is not the same as searching for products or things like that. And I believe that at some point, a company like Algolia could help me too. Okay. And they didn't pay me anything. But maybe you can fix pricing for me for some time. I don't know.
We can talk about that afterwards.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, there is one over there. Could you send the catch box?
Do you have a staging environment with maybe a MongoDB staging database and Algolia app for staging?
The level of development we don't. Short answer.
For tests?
Thank you for rewarding my honesty. There was a long answer that was the same answer at the end, but made me feel better, but it's all right. And I actually think that it could be a good idea. For example, locally. I'm working in the train. I cannot work with Algolia. I would love to have it locally. And I would love in my development pipe to be able to have different environments. I have those in Heroku. I have those in my branches on GitHub. I would love to have the same on Algolia side. Sometimes I need to change some settings, some part. What I do right now is I create a new index, and I push my settings on real time. But I think better visibility on that could be useful. Yeah.
Test. Yeah. I would recommend you to have one index per developer.
Yes.
And maybe one index per staging/development environment. You're taking notes. That's awesome.
No?
It's okay.
No, but you know, like when you are in here, you feel a lot of adrenaline, and if you don't write down, you actually forget.
Awesome.
It already happened to me. You know, some guy in the audience like told me like a $1 million idea, and I came home, I had nothing. Sorry.
And if you don't have connectivity, we do also provide some kind of mocks to actually mock the API and not do the network call in Ruby as well.
Cool.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, one of Algolia's value is actually candor, and you are really candid in your answers, so that's perfect. You're
Cool.
definitely fitting there.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.